Hello and welcome to math. So this is for the week of April 20th through the 26th, and we're going to be talking about similar figures and analyzing the shapes in your project. So for this week, you're going to do the lesson below, including the Khan Academy practice. You're going to do an ed puzzle titled Similar Figures and Analyze Shapes. Then on your geometry project, you're going to analyze the shapes and record in your data sheet on Google Classroom. Then at the end, if you have time, you're going to play Prodigy. So you're going to be turning in the ed puzzle, but also working on that Cubism Geometry Art Project data sheet that I have listed for you on Google Classroom. The ed puzzle is due Monday, April 27th at 9 a.m. and of course is available in Google Classroom. Most of your time this week will be spent on analyzing shapes in your geometry project. So the lesson's actually pretty short. So a couple of review songs that are good to see. We have some new vocabulary. Make sure you write this all down. We have a schmoop on similar figures. You know, those are always kind of weird. And then the Khan Academy practice. If you struggle with this or can't make a 75%, of course you can watch the Khan Academy video and it'll help you out. At this point, you should be here doing the ed puzzle. And we are going to have a big old review of everything that you need for your project. And so we're doing this big old review skill check quiz in the middle of this. So make sure that you studied everything, that you have all your math notes handy, pencil, paper, and your calculator. So let's go ahead and get started on talking about similar figures. So similar figures are size change where the angles are equal and the sides are proportional. So a proportion is two equal fractions where you cross multiply to solve. And we're also going to be calculating scale factors. So one of the classic problems is the flagpole shadow. And so if you have a 40-foot tall flagpole that casts a 250-foot long shadow, how long is the shadow that a 5-foot tall woman casts? So one of the things that you can do when you're doing proportions is to draw a grid. So you just have 4 boxes here. And you just want to organize it. So this is going to be the object, and this is the shadow. This is the flagpole, and this is the woman. So as long as you have it organized, it should be correct. It doesn't really matter what goes where. So I just kind of chose what's going on there. So the flagpole object is actually 40. And the flagpole shadow is 250. Then the woman, the actual object of the woman, is 5 feet, and we don't know about her shadow, so that is our X. We take what's in our boxes, and we just write it down here as 2 equal fractions and a proportion. Then we're going to cross multiply. So we have 40 times X, so that's just going to actually be 40X. Equals 5 times 250. So on your calculator right now, go ahead and do 5 times 250. And on your paper, write down 40x equals that number and solve for x. So now we have another problem with triangles, and it's also proportions. So I've set up the grid for you. You have the big triangle and the small triangle, and you have side and bottom. So go ahead and fill in the grid, including your x, and solve for x. Next, we have a couple of triangles, and they've given us all the sides, but now we need to figure out the scale factor. So we did this with our cell project, and we want to find those corresponding sides and make them into a fraction. So we have 8 over 12 right here, and you can put that in your calculator, and you're going to get 0.6 repeating. And you could actually do this with any of the sides. You can put 6 over 9, in your calculator. 6 divided by 9 equals, and you're going to get 0.6 repeating. So the 0.6 repeating is your scale factor if you're going from the small to the big, because we put the small over the big. But what if you're going from the big to the small? You can do either way, and all you do is you flip that fraction. So here we have 12 over 8 if you're going from the big to the small. And if you put that in your calculator, you're going to get 1.5. So it depends on whether you're going from small to big or big to small. Both scale factors are appropriate. So take a look at these two shapes. You want to count the squares. So count the squares from F to G and count the squares from B to C. And on your Edpuzzle, click where the two appropriate scale factors are for these trapezoids. Next, we're going to review how to do points. So remember, when you're doing points, it's X and then Y, and we are just dealing with quadrant 1 in our project. So remember, X is how far to the right you go, and Y is how far up you go. So let's look at point Z. We're going to go over 2. So that's my first coordinate. I'm going to put a 2. And then once I walk to my rocket, I'm going to take off and go all the way up to 4. So this point is 2, 4. Now in the Edpuzzle, go ahead and enter in the correct coordinates for W. Next, we have the 3 types of triangles. So a right triangle has one right angle, which is 90 degrees. An obtuse triangle has one angle that's more than 90 degrees. The other two are acute angles, but it's an obtuse triangle. And an acute triangle, all 3 angles are less than 90 degrees. So we have our 3 types of triangles according to angles: right, obtuse, and acute. So use the Edpuzzle and answer the questions about triangles A, B, and C. So let's say in your picture you have a really, really skinny triangle like this. What kind of triangle is this? Then you have another triangle. What kind of triangle would this one be? You're also going to need to do the angles of your triangles. So you need to know how many degrees they add up to. That was in the song and it should be in your notes. So if this triangle has a 30-degree angle and a 110-degree angle, if we continued and made a nice pretty triangle, what is the degrees of this angle? Next is the area of a triangle. So look up the formula for the area of the triangle and tell me the area of this triangle. Then we have the area of a parallelogram. You're only going to need 2 of these measurements. What is the area of this parallelogram? Next, I want you to notice the angles in a parallelogram. So the angles in a parallelogram in any shape with 4 sides add up to 360 degrees. But there's a pattern in the angles of the parallelogram that I'd like you to also put in your project. What is the pattern of the angles in the parallelogram? Next is a trapezoid. So look up your formula for a trapezoid and find the area of this trapezoid. And next we have a circle. So all the way across here is 42 centimeters. What is the area of this circle? What is the circumference of this circle? The distance all the way around. The circumference of the circle. All right, so that is it for our skill check quiz in here. Next, we're going to take a look and see what we're supposed to do this week on our Cubism project. So that's going to be the big part of what you're doing this week. On your Cubism project, we're going to use part of that border, not the whole thing, just part of it, to draw an X and Y axis. So your X axis goes across the bottom, and you're going to measure it in centimeters from left to right, and you're going to just put a 1 where 1 centimeter is, a 2, a 3, a 4 across there. Same thing on the y-axis on the left. You're going to start with 0 at the very corner, and you're going to do a 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up the side of your paper. It doesn't matter how many centimeters it is, it's okay. We just want to get a grid so that you can tell me the location of their shapes. So I'll show you that in just a second, but you're going to be finding the XY location, so across and then up, of this about the center of your shape. And you're just estimating that so that I know what shape you're talking about. Because I bet your paper has a lot of triangles on it and a lot of quadrilaterals. So I need to know what shape you're talking about. So what you're going to be doing this week is analyzing your shapes and filling out the Cubism Geometry Art Project page on Google Classroom. And I assigned one to each of you, so I believe you should be able to fill it out on computer on the actual Google Classroom page. You're going to also be estimating your angles. And so you should know that the angles of a triangle add up to a certain number of degrees, and the angles of a quadrilateral add up to 360 degrees. All right, so here's what your paper looks like. And it looks a little overwhelming at first. All right, but that's okay. You're going to go through one step at a time. And the skill check quiz that I gave you earlier in this Ed puzzle is going to really help. So this is our Cubism art project. It's due May 4th. And when I say it needs to look artistic, really what I'm going by is it needs to look better than a third grader would do. Okay, I know we're not all artists. I'm certainly not. You've seen me attempt to draw. It's terrible. And so I'm just looking for something that you took your time on and did a great job. All right, so you've drawn your picture. You've made your X and Y axis on the two edges. Here we are analyzing our shapes. Next week, we're going to color and shade the pictures. Not this week. Don't color anymore. And then we're going to fill in the color guide on this sheet once you know what color things are. So the first section's on triangles. You're going to find an acute triangle. We don't know what color it is yet because we hadn't colored it, so skip that part. You're going to tell me the XY location, the approximate degrees of each angle. Now these should add up to 180. You're going to measure in centimeters the three sides of the triangle. And when this was on paper, circle made sense. You're going to bold whichever one is the base of these three sides. Okay, so notice they're all in this box, and you can put the numbers up here. So you're going to give me the three sides of your triangle and put in bold the one that is the base. You're going to give me the height of the triangle, and then you're going to calculate using the formula the area of your acute triangle. Then you're going to find an obtuse triangle and do the same thing. The degrees of each angle add up to 180, the side lengths, the height, and the area. You're going to do the right triangle. Then you have a transformation, and there's different types. It's in the song, the shape, and the two locations. We have the rectangle, these side lengths, the angles should all be the same, right? And the area. Parallelogram, trapezoid, similar figures, and the circle. All right, so you're going to do this for all of it, and I'll answer questions during our next Zoom.